Welcome to my Bible channel. Today we dive into one of Jesus' most profound and challenging teachings, the parable of the talents, found in Matthew 25 verses 14 to 30. This story isn't just a tale of ancient times. It holds timeless lessons about responsibility, faithfulness, and what it truly means to make the most of what God has entrusted to each of us. Imagine standing before the Master and hearing those powerful words. "Well done, good and faithful servant." What does it take to receive such praise? And more importantly, how can we avoid falling into the trap of fear and inaction that led to the servant who buried his talent in the ground? In this video, we'll explore the deeper meaning behind the talents. Was Jesus only talking about money? Or is there a spiritual principle hidden within this story? We'll uncover how this parable is not just about personal gifts, but about the call to steward everything God gives us, whether small or great, for His glory. But the ending of this parable is no gentle reminder. It carries a warning that leaves us with a thought-provoking question. What happens when we waste what God has placed in our hands? Get ready to embark on a journey of reflection and challenge. This video will inspire you to rethink how you're using your God-given abilities and encourage you to step boldly into the opportunities He places in your path. Will you be found faithful when the Master returns? Join us now and discover the life-changing message of the parable of the talents.
In this parable, Jesus paints the picture of a wealthy man preparing to go on a long journey. Before leaving, he calls together 3 of his trusted servants. These men have served him faithfully, and now the master entrusts them with his wealth. Each man is given responsibility over a portion of the master's fortune. To one servant he gives 5 talents, to another 2, and to the third 1 talent. A talent, at that time, was a substantial amount of money years' worth of wages. The master carefully chooses how much to give to each servant, according to his ability. This act of trust from the master is significant. It symbolizes not only his confidence in the servants, but also the expectation that they will use their abilities to manage and grow what has been entrusted to them. The master's departure signifies that the time for responsibility and action is now in the hands of his servants. As the master leaves, the servants are left with a decision. What will they do with the wealth they have been given? Will they invest it wisely, making the most of their master's trust? Or will they hesitate, letting fear dictate their actions? The parable invites us to consider what we would do if we were in their place. The servant who had received 5 talents immediately springs into action. He understands the value of the opportunity he's been given and the responsibility it carries. Without wasting time, he invests the talents wisely, putting them to work in ways that multiply their value. His efforts are fruitful, and in time, he doubles the amount entrusted to him. The 5 talents grow into 10. This servant's actions reflect his understanding of his master's trust. He knows that the master expects him to act with initiative and wisdom. His willingness to take risks and invest the money shows his confidence in the master's decision to entrust him with such a large amount. He doesn't hoard the wealth out of fear. Instead, he embraces the opportunity to grow it. His success is not just a result of good fortune, it is the product of diligence, hard work, and a clear understanding of his role. This servant's faithfulness stands as an example of what it means to be a good steward of the resources and gifts entrusted to us. His actions demonstrate how we are called to use our talents or abilities, opportunities, and not for selfish gain, but for the benefit of the master and others. Like the first servant, the second servant, who had received 2 talents, goes to work without hesitation. Although he was given less than the first, he is no less diligent. He invests the 2 talents wisely, and through his faithful work, he too doubles what he was given. The 2 talents become 4. His actions mirror those of the first servant, demonstrating that it's not the amount one is given that matters, but what one does with it. The second servant's obedience and trust in his master's judgment are clear. He doesn't compare himself to the servant who received 5 talents, nor does he feel discouraged by the fact that he received less. Instead, he focuses on what he has been given and works to multiply it. His effort is just as valuable as the first servant's, and his reward will be the same, showing that God values faithfulness over quantity. Through this servant, Jesus teaches us that we are not judged by the size of the talents we are given, but by how we use them. Each of us is entrusted with different gifts, resources, and opportunities, and our call is to be faithful with what we have, using it to the best of our ability for the Master's glory. In stark contrast to the first 2 servants, the third servant, who received only 1 talent, chooses a different path. Instead of investing or working with the money, he digs a hole in the ground and hides the talent. His actions are driven by fear, not faith. He later explains that he was afraid of his master's strict expectations and did not want to risk losing the money. This servant's decision reveals his misunderstanding of his master. He sees the master as a harsh man, someone to be feared rather than trusted. His fear paralyzes him, leading him to do nothing with the talent he was given. Instead of seeing the talent as an opportunity, he views it as a burden, and his inaction is rooted in a lack of trust and initiative. By burying the talent, the third servant squanders the opportunity given to him. The master had entrusted him with a portion of his wealth, expecting him to use it wisely. Instead, this servant lets fear dictate his actions, and as a result, he misses the chance to contribute to the master's kingdom. His inaction serves as a warning to those who allow fear, doubt, or complacency to keep them from using the gifts and opportunities entrusted to them. After a long time, the master returns from his journey. He calls his servants to give an account of what they have done with the talents he entrusted to them. The first servant approaches confidently, presenting the 10 talents he has gained. The master is pleased and responds with words of joy and affirmation. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. The second servant also steps forward, presenting the 4 talents he has earned. The master responds with the same words of praise. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Both servants are rewarded not for the amount of money they return, but for their faithfulness in using what they were given. They are invited into greater responsibility and to share in their master's joy, signifying the eternal reward that awaits those who are faithful stewards of God's gifts. The third servant, however, approaches with a different attitude. He begins by defending his inaction, explaining that he was afraid of the master and chose to hide the talent rather than risk losing it. But the master is not pleased. He calls the servant wicked and slothful and points out that even a small effort, like depositing the money with the bankers to earn interest, would have been better than doing nothing. The master's disappointment is clear, and the consequences are severe. The master's judgment on the third servant is harsh but just. He takes the 1 talent from the servant and gives it to the one who has 10, declaring, For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. This is a powerful reminder that the gifts and opportunities we are given must be used, or they will be lost. The third servant's failure to act leads to the loss of everything he had. The servant's punishment goes further. The master orders that he be cast into outer darkness, a place of weeping and gnashing of teeth. This represents the ultimate separation from God and the loss of eternal reward. The servant's fate is not due to the small amount he was given, but because he chose to do nothing with it. His fear and inaction led to his downfall, illustrating the severe consequences of failing to be faithful with what God has entrusted to us. This final scene of the parable brings the message into sharp focus. The parable of the talents teaches that God expects us to be faithful stewards of the gifts, abilities, and resources we are given. Whether we are entrusted with much or little, we are called to use it for His glory, trusting in His goodness and the reward that awaits those who are faithful. The parable reminds us that we are accountable for how we live our lives and that God values action, faithfulness, and initiative over fear and inaction.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through the parable of the talents from Matthew 25 verses 14 to 30. Jesus' message is clear. Faithfulness in what we are given, whether great or small, is not just expected but essential. The talents represent more than material wealth. They embody every gift, opportunity, and responsibility that God has entrusted to us. The call is simple but profound: to act, to grow, and to serve with what we have, knowing that one day the Master will return. Jesus challenges us to live boldly and not bury our potential out of fear or complacency. The servant who hid his talent wasn't judged because he failed to gain more, but because he failed to try. This parable leaves us with a powerful question to reflect on. Are we being faithful with what God has placed in our hands? The reward for those who act with diligence is more than just success. It is the joy of the Master's approval and the privilege of sharing in His kingdom. If this message has inspired you, don't leave without making an impact yourself. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share this video with others who need to hear it. Your support helps us continue to grow and bring these powerful teachings to more people. Let's stay connected and explore the treasures of the Bible together. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you soon in our next video.